25 years had passed since the barrier went up. General Alex Turner walked through the halls of the Terra Defense Coalition headquarters, built deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. The world had changed more in these 2 decades than in the previous 2 centuries. "Sir, the morning briefing is ready," said Colonel Kate Morgan as she fell into step beside him. Alex nodded. Kate had been just a young engineer when the exile began. Now she was the head of humanity's most ambitious project. Breaking the laws of physics the Council thought were absolute. The briefing room was filled with the best minds humanity could produce. Scientists, engineers, military strategists, and political leaders from every nation on Earth. The old divisions between countries seemed silly now. When you were the only humans in the universe, nationality didn't matter much. "Good morning, everyone," Alex began. "Let's start with the usual reports. Dr. Rodriguez, how are we doing on resource management?" Dr. Ben Rodriguez stood up, holding a data pad. "Better than we hoped, sir. The closed system protocols are working perfectly. We're actually producing more food and materials than we consume. The recycling programs have reached 98% efficiency. Being cut off from galactic trade had forced humanity to become completely self-sufficient. Every scrap of metal, every drop of water, every breath of air had to be reused. The technology they developed made the old environmental protection efforts look primitive." "Population?" Alex asked. "Steady at 8.2 billion, replied Dr. Sarah Williams from the Health Ministry. "Birth rates are controlled but stable. Life expectancy has increased to 91 years thanks to advances in medical technology." Alex smiled. The Council had expected humanity to consume itself in wars over dwindling resources. Instead, the threat of extinction had forced them to work together like never before. "Military production?" "All targets exceeded," reported Admiral Ryan Hayes from the Naval Command. "We now have 47 battle fleets, each one more advanced than anything we had when the barrier went up. The new ships incorporate every piece of alien technology we ever encountered, plus our own improvements." That was the Council's biggest mistake. They thought cutting humanity off would prevent them from advancing. Instead, it had given human scientists 25 years to study, reverse engineer, and improve upon every alien device they had ever seen. "Kate, tell us about the barrier project." Kate stood up, her eyes bright with excitement. "Sir, we've done it. The quantum tunneling array is online." A murmur of excitement went through the room. For 15 years, Kate's team had been working on a way to see through the barrier without breaking it. The Council believed they had created a perfect prison. They were wrong. "Show us," Alex said. Kate activated the main display. The screen showed a view of space beyond the Sol system. Ships moved between distant stars, alien vessels going about their normal business. "We can observe everything within a range of 50 light years," Kate explained. "The tunneling effect lets us send sensor probes through quantum space. They can't detect us, but we can see them." Alex studied the display. "What have you learned?" "The Council has been busy," Kate said. "They've told every species in the galaxy that Earth was cleansed of dangerous life forms. As far as anyone knows, humans are extinct." "Convenient," muttered Ben Rodriguez. "Makes it easier for them to forget about us." "There's more," Kate continued. "The Council's technology hasn't advanced at all since we were exiled. If anything, they've become more complacent. Their ships are exactly the same as they were 25 years ago, while ours have improved by several generations," added Admiral Hayes. Alex nodded. Isolation had made humanity stronger, but it had made the Council weaker. They had no one to challenge them, no new ideas to incorporate. Comfort and safety had made them lazy. Any signs of external threats? Alex asked. Kate's expression grew serious. That's the interesting part, sir. Long-range sensors have detected something at the edge of the galaxy, multiple large objects moving inward at high speed. Ships? We think so, but they're using technology we don't recognize, different from anything the Council has. Alex felt a chill. Humanity had spent 25 years preparing for the day they might break free from their prison. But they had always assumed their only opponents would be the Council. The thought of something else out there was disturbing. How long until these objects reach Council space? At current speed, approximately 18 months. Alex looked around. The room. Every face showed the same realization. Humanity might not be the Council's biggest problem much longer. Dr. Williams, Alex said, I want a complete psychological profile of every Council species. How do they handle threats? What are their weaknesses? Yes, sir. Admiral Hayes, begin preparing contingency plans. If something attacks the Council, what would our response options be? Sir, are you suggesting we might help them? Alex was quiet for a moment. The Council had exiled humanity, called them monsters, locked them away like criminals. Every human had reason to hate them. But there was something more important at stake. They're still people, Alex said finally. Different from us, but still intelligent beings with families, hopes, dreams. If something is coming to destroy them, we need to be ready to make a choice. The barrier still blocks everything, Kate pointed out. Even if we wanted to help, we can't get through. Then you better figure out how to get through it, Alex replied, because I have a feeling we're going to need to. After the meeting ended, Alex stood alone in the briefing room, staring at the display showing Council space. 25 years ago, he had been a simple colonel, commanding a small unit of Marines. The exile had changed everything. It had forced humanity to grow up fast. The old Earth had been divided, competitive, sometimes wasteful. The new Earth was unified, efficient, and stronger than ever. But strength without purpose was meaningless. Kate entered the room quietly. Sir, you really think we should help them? After what they did to us? Alex turned to face her. Kate, what makes us different from every other species in the galaxy? She thought for a moment. We adapt quickly. We're creative. We don't give up. That's part of it. But the real difference is this. We fight for others, not just ourselves. That's what scared the Council about us. That's what they called primitive violence. And now it might be the only thing that saves them. Maybe. But first we need to find a way through that barrier. Kate smiled. Already working on it, sir. If we can observe through quantum space, we should be able to send matter through as well. It'll take time, but I think we can do it. How much time? Give me 6 months. Alex looked at the display again. Whatever was coming toward the galaxy, it would arrive long before humanity was ready for a full-scale breakout. But maybe they didn't need to break out completely. Maybe they just needed to crack the door open. Get to work, he said. And Kate, this stays classified until we know more. As Kate left, Alex remained staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council was going about their business, confident in their safety. They had no idea that the species they had exiled was about to become their only hope for survival. The irony was almost funny. Almost. Commander Jake Harrison stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the last transport ship leave Earth's orbit. The blue planet below looked peaceful, almost normal. But Jake knew this was the end of everything humanity had worked for over the past 50 years. "Sir, that's the final evacuation ship," reported Lieutenant Amy Chen from the communication console. "All personnel are now beyond the projected barrier zone." Jake nodded slowly. In 6 hours, the Galactic Council would activate their containment field around the entire Sol system. No one would be able to get in or out. Earth and everyone on, it would be cut off from the galaxy forever. "Any word from Dr. Carter?" Jake asked. "She's still on the lunar surface, sir. Refuses to leave." Jake wasn't surprised. Dr. Lisa Carter had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 15 years. She had tried everything to prevent this moment. Negotiations, appeals, even begging. Nothing had worked. The Council had made their decision. Humanity was too dangerous to be allowed among the civilized races of the galaxy. Jake remembered the day it all started to fall apart. 3 years ago, during what should have been a routine trade negotiation with the Zilani Commerce Guild. Captain Robert Stone had been commanding the human delegation's escort ship when Zilani pirates attacked a nearby transport. Stone did what any human would do. He moved to help. The pirates were holding civilian hostages. Stone's Marines boarded their ship and rescued everyone. Not a single hostage died. To humans, it was a clear victory for justice. To the Galactic Council, it was proof that humans were violent savages who couldn't solve problems without bloodshed. The Zilani had proper procedures for dealing with pirates, Council Speaker Vorth had explained during the hearings. Your people ignored established protocols and used primitive force. This shows your species lacks the wisdom for galactic citizenship. It didn't matter that the proper procedures would have taken hours while people died. It didn't matter that Stone had tried to contact council authorities first. What mattered was that humans had acted with violence, and the council feared what that meant. More incidents followed. Each time, humans had thought they were doing the right thing, helping people in danger, standing up for the weak. Fighting when fighting was needed, the Council saw only a species that chose war over peace, violence over patience. "Commander Harrison," Amy's voice brought him back to the present. "Dr. Carter is requesting permission to speak with you." Put her through. Dr. Carter's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired, older than her 53 years. The stress of the past 3 years had worn her down. "Jake," she said, "I wanted to apologize. This is my fault. I should have made them understand who we really are." "Lisa, you did everything possible. The Council made their choice. Now we have to live with it." "Do you think they're right?" She asked quietly. "Are we really too violent for civilized society?" Jake looked out at Earth again. Down there, 7 billion people were going about their lives. Farmers growing food, teachers educating children, doctors healing the sick, artists creating beauty, scientists pushing the boundaries of knowledge. Yes, humans could fight. They had fought each other for thousands of years before learning to work together. When the first alien ships arrived 50 years ago, there had been fear that humanity would unite only to fight the newcomers. Instead, contact with the galaxy had brought out the best in humanity. They had worked harder than ever to prove they deserved a place among the stars. Earth had become more peaceful, more united than ever before, but the Council only saw the capacity for violence, not the choice to reject it. "No," Jake said finally. "They're wrong, but it doesn't matter now." "The barrier will be completely impenetrable," Carter continued. "Our scientists estimate it could last for thousands of years. Jake, We're about to become the only intelligent species in the universe living in complete isolation. Then we better make the best of it. A new voice joined the conversation. Commander Harrison, this is Control. We're detecting massive energy buildup at the barrier generators. Jake checked his watch. They're starting early. All around the Sol system, enormous alien machines began to power up. The Council had built them over the past 6 months, each one the size of a small moon. When they finished their work, an energy field would surround the entire system like an invisible wall. Sir, Amy reported, we're getting final messages from our diplomatic ships outside the barrier. They're being escorted away from Council space. Tell them we understand, Jake said. And Amy, send a message to all human settlements. Tell them this isn't the end. It's a new beginning. The barrier began to form at the edge of the system. It started as a faint shimmer, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then it grew brighter, more solid. Within an hour, it surrounded everything: the sun, the planets, all the asteroids and space stations. Jake tried to send a message to the Council ships just outside the barrier. Nothing went through. He tried radio, laser communication, even simple light signals. The barrier blocked everything. We're completely cut off, Amy reported. No communication possible. Dr. Carter's image flickered and disappeared as the moon passed behind the Earth. When it emerged again, she was back. Jake, I'm reading the barrier's energy signature. It's not just blocking communication, it's blocking everything. Matter, energy, information. Nothing can get through in either direction. So the Council can't check on us either? That's right. For all they know, we might all be dead by now. Jake smiled grimly. The Council had made a mistake. They thought they were containing a threat. Instead, they had given humanity something it had never had before: complete freedom from outside interference. Lisa, I want you to contact everyone in authority positions: government leaders, military commanders, scientists, engineers. We need to have a meeting. What are you thinking? I'm thinking the Council just gave us the greatest gift possible: time. Unlimited time to grow, to learn, to become something they never expected. You think we'll ever see them again? Jake looked out at the barrier surrounding their system. It was invisible now, but he could feel it there. A wall built by aliens who feared what humanity might become. They had no idea how right they were to be afraid. Oh, we'll see them again, Jake said. And when we do, they're going to realize they made the biggest mistake in galactic history. The barrier settled into its final configuration. Humanity was alone in the universe, but they wouldn't stay weak forever. Captain Ryan Hayes crouched in the pilot seat of the stealth ship Silent Arrow, watching his instruments with intense focus. 30 years of exile had ended 6 months ago when Kate Morgan's team finally cracked the barrier. Not enough to send armies through, but enough for small ships to slip past undetected. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, whispered Lieutenant Tony Green from the sensor station. "Distance 12,000 kilometers. Ryan adjusted their course slightly. The ship they were tracking was massive, easily 10 times larger than anything in the Council's fleet. It moved with purpose through empty space between star systems, heading directly toward the heart of Council territory. "Are you getting this, Command?" Ryan spoke quietly into his communication system. "We see it, Silent Arrow," came Admiral Susan Brooks's voice from back in Sol system. "How many does that make?" "This is the 15th ship we've detected," Ryan replied. "All following the same course, all using the same unknown technology." Tony looked up from his sensors. Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures from that ship. Whatever powers it, it's way beyond Council technology. Ryan nodded grimly. 2 months of reconnaissance had painted a clear picture. Something called the Void Collective was approaching Council space, and they had technology that made the galaxy's most advanced civilizations look like children with toys. Silent Arrow, this is Admiral Brooks. Return to base immediately. We need to discuss what you found. Understood, Control. We're coming home. Ryan engaged the quantum drive, and space twisted around them. The technology was humanity's greatest breakthrough, faster-than-light travel that didn't rely on the hyperspace lanes the Council used. It made human ships nearly impossible to track. 3 days later, Ryan sat in the same briefing room where Alex Turner had planned humanity's response to exile 30 years earlier. Alex was gone now, killed in a training accident 5 years ago, but his replacement, Admiral Brooks, shared his vision. Ladies and gentlemen, Brooks began, what Captain Hayes has discovered changes everything. Show them, Ryan. Ryan activated the holographic display, showing the Council's territory and the approaching Void Collective fleet. Based on our observations, the Collective will reach the Outer Council systems in approximately 6 weeks. Their force consists of at least 300 ships, each one more powerful than a Council dreadnought. Dr. Lisa Carter, now in her 70s but still sharp, studied the display. What do we know about their intentions? Nothing good, replied Dr. Ben Rodriguez, who had taken over the Xenology department. We intercepted some of their communications. The translations are rough, but they seem to view all galactic civilizations as corrupted by weakness and in need of purification. Genocide, said Colonel Kate Morgan bluntly. They're coming to wipe out everyone. The room fell silent. Humanity had spent 30 years growing stronger, preparing for eventual contact with the galaxy. They had imagined many scenarios: war with the Council, gradual reintegration, even conquest. They had never imagined becoming the galaxy's only hope for survival. What's the Council's military status? Brooks asked. Pathetic, answered Admiral Hayes. They have about 2,000 ships spread across their territory, but most are patrol vessels or transports. Maybe 300 actual warships, and their tactics haven't evolved since before our exile. While this Void Collective has been fighting across multiple galaxies, Ryan added, our analysis suggests they've conquered dozens of civilizations. They know war in a way the Council has forgotten. Brooks stood up, pacing in front of the display. So here's our situation. The Council is about to face complete destruction. They don't know it's coming because they've gotten lazy and comfortable. Even if they did know, they couldn't stop it with their current military. And we're the only ones who might be able to help, finished Dr. Carter. The question is, should we? Brooks looked around the room. The Council exiled us, called us monsters, cut us off from the galaxy for 30 years. A lot of people would say they deserve whatever happens to them. Captain. Tony Green raised his hand. Ma'am, my father was on the diplomatic team that tried to prevent the exile. He spent years trying to make the Council understand that humans weren't their enemy. They wouldn't listen. And now they're about to pay for that mistake, Brooks replied. But the question isn't whether they deserve our help. The question is whether we can live with ourselves if we let billions of innocent people die. The room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, Dr. Carter spoke up. 30 years ago, when the barrier went up, Commander Harrison told me this wasn't the end. It was a new beginning. I think he was right. We've become something the Council never expected. We've become better than they are. How do you mean? Asked Kate. They exiled us because they were afraid of what humans might do. They saw our capacity for violence and assumed we would use it for conquest. But look what we actually did. We turned inward. We made ourselves stronger, not to destroy others, but to protect ourselves. And now we have the chance to prove them wrong, Ryan said slowly. To show them that human strength doesn't have to mean human aggression. Brooks nodded. That's exactly what I was thinking. But there's one problem. The barrier. Kate smiled. Not anymore. My team finished the breakthrough yesterday. We can create temporary openings large enough for our ships to pass through. It'll take enormous amounts of power, and we can only keep the gaps open for short periods, but we can get through. How many ships? Asked Admiral Hayes. Maybe 50 at a time, if we drain every power source in the Sol system. Brooks did quick calculations in her head. We have 230 ships ready for combat. If we can get them all through the barrier, we'd still be outnumbered more than 2-1, Ryan pointed out. But we'd have the advantage of surprise, Kate added. And our technology is 30 years more advanced than anything the Collective expects to face. Plus, we fight differently, said Tony. Council military doctrine is all about formation flying and coordinated attacks. Very predictable. Human tactics focus on individual initiative and adaptation. Brooks made her decision. Kate, I want you to begin preparations for a full fleet deployment. Ben, start analyzing everything we know about Void Collective technology. Look for weaknesses. Admiral, Dr. Carter interrupted. Shouldn't we at least try to warn the Council first? With what? We can't send messages through the barrier, and they wouldn't believe us anyway. Remember, as far as they know, humans have been extinct for 30 years. Ryan stood up. Ma'am, there is one way to get their attention. What do you mean? We show up and start fighting the Collective. That should get their notice pretty quickly. Brooks considered this. You're suggesting we engage an enemy force, without backup, without support, and without any guarantee that the people we're trying to save will even help us? Yes, ma'am. That's either the bravest thing I've ever heard or the stupidest. Kate laughed. Admiral, we're humans. Those two. Things are pretty much the same to us. Brooks looked around the room at the faces of humanity's best and brightest. 30 years ago, they had been exiled as dangerous monsters. Now they were preparing to sacrifice themselves to save the very people who had cast them out. All right, she said finally. Let's go save the galaxy. Colonel Amy Foster floated in the command pod of her assault ship, watching the barrier around Sol system fluctuate like water during an earthquake. Every power generator on Earth, Mars, and the moon colonies was feeding energy into Kate Morgan's breakthrough device. Breach formation in 30 seconds, Kate's voice crackled through the communication system. Amy, you'll have exactly 4 minutes before the gap closes. Understood, Control, Amy replied. She looked back at her squadron, 24 of humanity's most advanced stealth ships, each one packed with sensors and survival equipment. Their mission was simple: establish a forward base outside the Sol system without being detected by anyone. Breach opening now! The barrier split open like tearing fabric. For a moment, Amy could see normal space beyond, stars that had been hidden for 30 years. Then her ship shot through the gap, followed by the rest of her squadron. We're through, she reported. Beginning evasive maneuvers. The human ships scattered immediately, each one following a different course toward their target. A dead star system 20 light-years from Sol. The system had been abandoned by its original inhabitants millions of years ago, leaving behind only cold planets and asteroid fields, perfect for hiding a secret base. Amy's ship, the Night Hunter, reached the system first. She activated the passive sensors and waited. Nothing. No energy signatures, no movement, no signs of life. The system was as dead as their intelligence report suggested. Night Hunter to all units, she transmitted on a tight beam frequency. System is clear. Begin Phase 2. Over the next 6 hours, Amy's squadron transformed the largest asteroid in the system into humanity's first hidden outpost beyond Sol. They hollowed out chambers for equipment, installed sensors to monitor nearby space, and set up communication relays. Most importantly, they deployed the quantum observation posts that would let them watch the approaching Void Collective without being seen. Base Alpha is operational, Amy reported to Earth 3 days later. We're tracking 17 collective ships in our sensor range. They're definitely heading for Council space. Any sign they've detected us? Admiral Brooks asked. Negative. Our stealth systems are working perfectly. Back on Earth, Brooks studied the reports from Base Alpha. The Void Collective was moving faster than expected. They would reach the outer Council systems in less than 3 weeks. Kate, how are the preparations going? Kate looked exhausted. She had been working 18-hour days for the past week. The fleet is ready, Admiral. All 230. Ships are equipped with the new quantum drives and stealth systems. We can get them through the barrier in groups of 50. Weapons. Every ship has been upgraded with hybrid technology, human innovation combined with reverse-engineered Council systems. Our firepower is at least equal to anything the Collective has. Admiral Hayes joined the conversation. Ma'am, I have to ask. Are we really doing this? Are we really about to start a war to protect people who hate us? Brooks was quiet for a moment. Ryan, what did your grandfather tell you about the old wars on Earth? That they were fought over territory, resources, ideology. People fighting for things, right. But there's another kind of war. The kind where you fight not for something, but against something. Against tyranny, against injustice, against evil. This is one of those wars? Look at the intelligence reports, Brooks said. The Void Collective doesn't want to conquer the Council. They want to exterminate them. Every man, woman, and child in 12 different species. That's not conquest, that's genocide. Dr. Carter, now serving as humanity's chief strategist, nodded agreement. The Council may have wronged us, but they don't deserve extinction. And if the Collective succeeds here, where do they go next? How long before they find a way through our barrier? Hayes understood. So we're not just fighting for the Council. We're fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for the principle that intelligent life has value, Brooks corrected. All intelligent life. That's what makes us different from the Collective. Captain Tony Green entered the briefing room carrying a data pad. Admiral, we just received an update from Base Alpha. The Collective Advance Force has reached the outer rim of Council space. Show me. The main display activated, showing a tactical map of the region. Red dots representing Void Collective ships were approaching the blue zone marking Council territory. First contact in 6 days, Tony reported. The Council has a patrol fleet in that sector, about 30 ships. They're going to be slaughtered, Kate said quietly. Brooks made her decision. Signal the fleet. We deploy tomorrow. Kate, I want the first wave through the barrier in 12 hours. Yes, ma'am. As the meeting broke up, Amy's voice came through from Base Alpha. Control, this is Night Hunter. We're detecting unusual activity in the target system. What kind of activity? Massive energy buildup. The Collective ships are doing something we haven't seen before. Brooks felt a chill. Can you determine what? Negative. But whatever it is, it's big. The energy readings are off the charts. Tony looked at the data streaming in from the remote base. Admiral, I don't think we have 6 days. I think we have 6 hours. Explain. Look at these power signatures. They're not preparing for a normal attack. This looks like some kind of superweapon charge-up. The room fell silent as everyone realized what this meant. The Void Collective wasn't planning to invade Council space. They were planning to sterilize it. Kate, can we move up the deployment? It'll be risky, but yes, we can start sending ships through immediately. Do it. And Signal Base Alpha, I want continuous monitoring of that collective fleet. Amy's voice came through again. Understood. Control. But Admiral, there's something else. We're detecting Council ships moving to intercept the collective force. How many? Looks like their entire Outer Rim defense fleet. Maybe 40 ships. Brooks closed her eyes. 40 Council ships against the collective advance force. It would be a massacre. Admiral, Kate said quietly, the barrier breach is ready. We can send the first wave through now. Brooks looked around the room one last time. 30 years ago, humanity had been exiled from the galaxy for being too violent. Now they were about to prove that sometimes violence was the only way to protect the innocent. Send them through, she ordered, and God help us all. The first wave of human ships shot through the barrier gap and disappeared into quantum space, racing toward a battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. Behind them, the rest of humanity's fleet prepared to follow. For the first time in 30 years, humans were going to war. But this time, they weren't fighting for conquest or territory or revenge. They were fighting for the simple principle that genocide was wrong, no matter who the victims were, even if those victims had once called humans monsters. In space near Base Alpha, Amy watched the collective fleet complete whatever they were preparing. The energy readings spiked beyond measurement, then stabilized at impossible levels. Control, she transmitted. They're moving. All collective ships are heading for Council space at maximum speed. How long until they reach the Council fleet? Amy did quick calculations. 4 hours, ma'am. Understood. Night Hunter, maintain observation and report everything you see. Roger that, Control. Amy settled in to watch. In 4 hours, the galaxy would learn whether humanity had become strong enough to keep its promise, to be protectors instead of destroyers. The Void Collective was about to discover they had chosen the wrong enemy. Captain Tony Green piloted his stealth reconnaissance ship through the empty space between star systems, his instruments locked onto the massive Void Collective fleet ahead. The ship's name, Shadow Dancer, fit perfectly. They moved like ghosts, through space, invisible to enemy sensors. Distance to target fleet, 8,000 kilometers. Reported Lieutenant Lisa Park from the sensor station. Still no indication they've detected us. Tony nodded. For the past week, his ship had been shadowing the collective's main force as they moved deeper into Council space. What they had learned was terrifying. Communications? Any updates from the Council Defense Forces? Yes, sir, replied Ensign Dan Miller. The Outer Rim fleet tried to intercept the collective advance force 6 hours ago. Tried? Dan's face was grim. Sir, it was a slaughter. 40 Council ships destroyed in less than 20 minutes. No survivors. Tony felt sick. He had watched the battle through long-range sensors. The Council ships had fought bravely, but their weapons barely scratched the collective vessels. When the aliens fired back, entire Council ships simply vanished in bursts of white light. Any word from Admiral Brooks? The first wave of our fleet should arrive in this sector within the hour, Lisa reported. But, sir, I'm reading something new from the collective flagship. Show me. The main display focused on the largest collective ship, a massive vessel shaped like a twisted spear. Energy readings spiked across its hull as weapon systems charged. They're preparing to fire on the Council home system, Lisa said quietly. From here. Tony did quick calculations. They were still 3 light years from the Council's capital world. No known weapon could fire accurately across that distance. Sir, Dan interrupted, incoming transmission from Earth. Admiral Brooks wants to speak with you directly. Admiral Brooks's face appeared on the communication screen. Behind her, Tony could see the chaos of the war room on Earth. Tony, what's your status? We're observing the collective main fleet, ma'am. They're about to do something to the Council. Home system. Some kind of long-range attack. Can you determine what kind of weapon they're using? Negative, Admiral. But the energy readings are beyond anything we've seen before. Brooks was quiet for a moment. Tony, I need you to do something that may get you killed. Yes, ma'am. I need you to break radio silence and transmit a warning directly to the Council. Tell them what's coming. Tony understood immediately. The message would reveal their presence to the collective, making them a target. But it might be the Council's only chance to prepare. What should I tell them? Tell them the truth. Tell them who you are, where you came from, and what you've seen. Maybe they'll listen. Admiral, even if they believe us, what can they do? We just watched their entire outer fleet get destroyed. I don't know, Tony, but we have to try. Lisa looked up from her sensors. Sir, the collective flagship is almost ready to fire. Whatever they're planning, it's happening now. Tony made his decision. Dan, open a channel to the Council emergency frequency. Sir, that will expose us to the entire collective fleet. Do it. The channel opened. Tony took a deep breath and began speaking. Council Emergency Command. This is Captain Tony Green of the Terran Defense Fleet. I repeat, this is Captain Tony Green representing the human species. Static filled the channel for several seconds. Then a shocked alien voice responded. Human vessel, this is impossible. Your species was eliminated 30 years ago. Negative, Council Command. We were exiled, not eliminated. We're here to warn you of immediate danger. This is some kind of collective deception. Listen to me, Tony interrupted. There's a void collective fleet 3 light years from your home system. They have a super weapon aimed at your capital world. You have maybe 5 minutes before they fire. Another pause. Then a different voice. Older and more authoritative. Human ship, this is Council Speaker Vorth. If you are truly human, prove it, Tony thought quickly. 30 years ago, your people exiled us because Captain Robert Stone rescued hostages from Zalani pirates. You said we were too violent for civilized society. You were wrong then, and you're wrong now. By the ancient stars, Vorth whispered. You are human. Speaker Vorth, you need to evacuate your home system immediately. The collective has technology that can destroy planets from interstellar distances. That's impossible. Sir, Lisa interrupted. They're firing! On the display, the collective flagship discharged a massive beam of energy that tore through space-time itself. The weapon created a tunnel through hyperspace, allowing the destruction to travel faster than light. Council Command, the weapon has been fired. You have approximately 40 seconds before impact. Chaos erupted on the Council frequency. Orders, screams, desperate attempts to contact the home system. Tony could only listen as an entire civilization realized they were about to lose their capital world. Then, suddenly, the energy beam stopped. What happened? Tony asked. Lisa studied her sensors frantically. Sir, something intercepted the beam. A ship just materialized directly in its path. That's impossible. Nothing could survive that kind of energy discharge. Sir, I'm reading a familiar signature. That's one of ours. Tony couldn't believe it. One of our ships? The destroyer Nighthawk Captain Sarah Johnson commanding. The communication system crackled to life with Sarah's voice. All ships. This is Nighthawk. The Council home system is safe. The collective superweapon has been neutralized. Sarah, how did you... We used the quantum drive to materialize directly in the beam path, then absorbed the energy with our new shield systems. The beam was powerful, but it was designed to destroy planets, not ships with adaptive shielding. Tony felt a surge of pride. Human innovation had just saved billions of lives. Nighthawk, what's your status? We're damaged, but operational. And we're not alone. The entire first wave just arrived. On Tony's sensors, 50 human ships materialized, out of quantum space surrounding the collective fleet. The aliens found themselves outnumbered for the first time. Speaker Vorth's voice returned to the communication channel. Human vessels, we don't understand. Why are you here? Why are you helping us? Tony smiled. Because it's the right thing to do, Speaker Vorth. That's what humans do. But we exiled you. We called you monsters. You were wrong about us, Tony replied. We're not monsters. We're guardians. The collective fleet began to react to the human presence. Their ships turned to engage the newcomers, clearly shocked by the sudden appearance of an unknown force. All human ships, this is Admiral Brooks, came the voice from Earth. You are authorized to engage the enemy. Show them what 30 years of preparation can accomplish. The first battle between humanity and the Void Collective began with a brilliant flash of weapons fire. Human ships danced through space with impossible agility, their quantum drives allowing them to appear and disappear at will. The collective had technology designed to overwhelm static defenses and destroy slow-moving targets. They had never faced opponents who could literally vanish from one location and reappear in another. Tony! Sarah's voice cut through the battle chatter. You might want to get out of there. This is about to get very intense. Already moving, Tony replied, directing Shadow Dancer away from the combat zone. As he watched, human ships struck at the collective fleet with precision and coordination that amazed even him. Every shot was carefully aimed, every movement calculated to minimize risk while maximizing damage. This wasn't the primitive violence the Council had feared. This was the controlled application of force in defense of the innocent. Council command. Tony transmitted, You're witnessing the true nature of humanity. We don't fight for conquest or glory. We fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Even those who wronged you? Vorth asked quietly. Especially those who wronged us, Tony replied. That's what forgiveness means. The battle raged on, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The Void Collective had expected to face a weak, divided council. Instead, they found themselves fighting humans who had spent 30 years becoming the galaxy's most formidable warriors. Thus, the galaxy was about to learn that when you exile humanity, you don't eliminate the threat. You just make them stronger. Admiral Nick Roberts stood on the bridge of the human flagship Defiant, watching the tactical display with growing concern. The first battle against the Void Collective had been a success, but it was only the beginning. The main enemy fleet was still advancing deeper into Council space, destroying everything in their path. Sir, incoming distress call from the Kepler colony, reported Commander Lisa Park from the communications station. Collective forces have broken through their defense grid. They're requesting immediate evacuation assistance. Nick studied the star map. Kepler colony was home to 12 million Council civilians, mostly Zalani traders and their families. The same species whose pirates had started the chain of events that led to humanity's exile 30 years ago. How long until the colony falls? He asked. Intelligence estimates 6 hours before the collective bombardment begins, replied Captain Sarah Johnson, who had transferred to the flagship after her ship Nighthawk was damaged in the previous battle. And how long to get our fleet there? 4 hours if we push the quantum drives to maximum. Nick made his decision. Signal all ships. We're moving to intercept. I want every available vessel ready for combat in 30 minutes. Sir, interrupted Dr. Emma Lewis from the medical bay. We're already overextended. Our ships took heavy damage in the last engagement. Shouldn't we wait for reinforcements? Doctor, there are 12 million people on that colony. We don't have time to wait. Emma nodded, understanding. I'll prep the medical teams for civilian evacuation. As the human fleet jumped to quantum space, Nick reflected on how much had changed. 30 years ago, the Zilani had been the ones filing complaints about human aggression. Now humans were risking their lives to save Zilani civilians. Admiral, Sarah said quietly, are you sure about this? We'll be outnumbered 3-1. Sarah, do you remember what Admiral Brooks told us before we left Earth? That we're not just fighting for the Council. We're fighting for the principle that innocent life matters. Right. Those civilians on Kepler Colony didn't exile us. They don't even know who we are. But they're still people, and people deserve protection. The fleet emerged from quantum space near Kepler Colony to find chaos. The collective advance force, 40 ships strong, was systematically destroying the colony's orbital platforms, while civilian transports fled in panic. All ships engage the enemy, Nick ordered. Priority targets are any vessels firing on civilian craft. The human ships spread out in attack formation, their adaptive camouflage making them nearly invisible against the stars. The collective had learned from their previous encounter with humans, but they still weren't prepared for the speed and unpredictability of quantum drive tactics. Admiral, this is Captain Mike Wilson on the destroyer Storm Rider, came a voice over the communication system. I've got civilian transports trapped near the colony's main station. Collective ships are moving to intercept. Storm Rider, you are authorized to protect those transports by any means necessary. What followed was one of the most incredible rescue operations in galactic history. Mike Wilson's ship materialized directly between the fleeing civilians and the collective warships, absorbing devastating weapon fire while human Marines beamed aboard the trapped transports to assist with evacuations. Admiral, this is Transport 7 Alpha, came a terrified Zilani voice. Our engines are damaged. We cannot reach escape velocity. Transport 7 Alpha, this is Admiral Roberts. Stand by for assistance. Nick watched as the destroyer Knight. Wind, commanded by Captain Dan Miller, latched onto the damaged transport with tractor beams and physically towed it away from the battle zone. Sir, Sarah reported, we're getting reports from across the colony. Collective ground forces have landed on the surface. Nick felt his blood run cold. The collective didn't take prisoners. Everyone on the surface was in immediate danger. Dr. Lewis, how many people can we evacuate? Our ships can handle maybe 200,000, Emma replied. But there are over 11 million still on the surface. Then we make multiple trips. Sir, the collective will have orbital control soon. We won't be able to get back. Nick was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he activated the fleet communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Roberts. New plan. We're not leaving. Sir, Sarah asked. We hold this system until every civilian is evacuated. I don't care if it takes days. The bridge crew exchanged. Glances. What Nick was proposing bordered on suicide, but no one objected. "Admiral," came Captain Wilson's voice. "Storm Rider is ready to hold the line." "Nightwind standing by," added Captain Miller. One by one, every ship in the human fleet confirmed their commitment. They would stay and fight no matter the cost. The battle for Kepler Colony lasted 18 hours. Human ships darted in and out of the atmosphere, picking up civilians while fighting off collective forces. When the quantum drives overheated from overuse, human engineers worked miracles to keep them running. Dr. Lewis coordinated the medical efforts, treating injured civilians from a dozen different species. Her teams worked without rest, saving lives that Council authorities had written off as lost. "Admiral," Sarah reported during a brief lull in the fighting, "we've evacuated 8.2 million civilians so far." "How many left?" 3.1 million, mostly in the southern continent." Nick looked at the tactical display. The collective was bringing in reinforcements. Soon the human fleet would be completely overwhelmed. "Sir," came a new voice on the communication channel. "This is Council Speaker Vorth aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony. We're requesting permission to enter the system." Nick was shocked. "Speaker Vorth, this is an active combat zone. You need to stay clear." "Admiral Roberts, we're not staying clear. We're here to help." On the display, Nick watched as Council ships began emerging from hyperspace. Not warships. The Council fleet had been largely destroyed. These were civilian vessels, transports, even luxury yachts. Hundreds of them. "Speaker Vorth, what are you doing?" "Something we should have done 30 years ago, Admiral. We're standing with humanity." The Council civilians had come to help with the evacuation. Their ships weren't armed, and they had no military training, but they had something else. The determination to prove they were worthy of human protection. "All Council vessels, this is Admiral Roberts. Welcome to the fight." The evacuation continued with renewed vigor. Council transport ships worked alongside human warships, racing against time to save the remaining civilians. When collective fighters attacked the unarmed transports, human escorts threw themselves into harm's way to protect them. Captain Tony Green, commanding the reconnaissance ship Shadow Dancer, performed the most dangerous mission of all, landing on the surface to evacuate the colony's command center. "Admiral, this is Shadow Dancer. I've got the colonial governor and his staff. They're the last ones. Everyone else is off the planet." "Understood, Tony. Get out of there." But as Shadow Dancer lifted off, collective ground forces opened fire. With everything they had, the ship's shields failed, and it began to fall back toward the surface. "Shadow Dancer, report. We're going down, sir, but we got everyone." Nick watched helplessly as the reconnaissance ship crashed in the colony's capital city. For several terrifying minutes, there was no communication. Then Tony's voice crackled through the static. "Admiral, this is Green. We're alive, but the ship is destroyed. Requesting pickup." Captain Miller's destroyer Nightwind dove through the atmosphere at dangerous speed, landing directly in the city's main square to extract the survivors. "All ships, this is Admiral Roberts," Nick transmitted as the last evacuation ship cleared the atmosphere. "Mission accomplished. Every civilian has been evacuated." The celebration was brief. The collective fleet was massive now, and the human ships were exhausted. "Admiral," Sarah said quietly, "we can't win this fight. There are too many of them." Nick nodded. "Signal the fleet. We're withdrawing to regroup." But as the human and Council ships prepared to leave, something unexpected happened. Ships began emerging from quantum space all around them. More human vessels than Nick had ever seen in one place. "Admiral Roberts, This is Admiral Brooks aboard the flagship Terra. The entire human fleet has arrived. Nick felt tears in his eyes. Every ship humanity had built over 30 years of exile was here. 230 vessels, representing the best of human engineering and determination. Admiral Brooks, it's good to see you. Nick, you and your people have done something incredible here. You've shown the galaxy who we really are. What's our next move? We finish this fight, and we make sure the collective learns that when you threaten innocent people, you get humans angry. And Speaker Vorth, Brooks continued, addressing the council leader, it's time for a conversation. A real one this time. Admiral Brooks, Vorth replied, I believe we have much to discuss. 30 years of mistakes to correct. The combined human and council fleet formed up for the final assault. The Void Collective had superior numbers and technology, but they faced something they had never encountered before. Two civilizations united by shared values rather than divided by fear. The battle for the galaxy's future was about to begin. General Mike Stone stood in the Council's emergency session chamber, the first human to address the full Galactic Assembly in 30 years. Around him, representatives from 12 species sat in stunned silence. Outside the chamber's windows, the combined human and council fleet prepared for the final battle against the Void Collective. Honored representatives, Mike began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. I know many of you are confused. 30 years ago, you were told that humanity had been eliminated. That was a lie. Speaker Vorth, the elderly Thraxian who had ordered humanity's exile, rose from his seat. General Stone, we owe your species an apology that spans 3 decades. But first we need to understand how many humans survived. All of us, Mike replied simply. 8.4 billion people, spread across 17 colonies within the Sol system. Your barrier didn't eliminate us. It gave us time to grow. A murmur ran through the chamber. Representative Keth of the Malari Confederation stood up. That's impossible. Our projections showed your species would destroy itself within a generation. Your projections were wrong, Mike said. Humans don't fight each other when we have a common cause. The barrier gave us the greatest common cause possible: survival. Captain Sarah Johnson, standing beside Mike, activated a holographic display, showing human achievements during the exile. Advanced ships, unified planetary governments, technological breakthroughs that surpassed anything the Council had developed. While you told the galaxy that humans were extinct, Sarah continued, we were becoming something you never imagined. We were becoming worthy of the galaxy's respect. Representative Zara of the Zalani Commerce Guild looked troubled. But why reveal yourselves now? Why risk exposure to help us? Mike's expression grew serious. Because the Void Collective threatens. More than just the Council, they want to exterminate all intelligent life in this galaxy. That includes us. But you were safe behind your barrier, Vorth pointed out. Were we? Mike replied. How long do you think it would take the collective to find a way through our defenses? A year? 10 years? Eventually, they would have come for us too. Dr. Emma Lewis stepped forward. More importantly, we couldn't stand by and watch genocide happen. That's not who humans are. But we called you monsters, whispered Representative Gorth of the hegemony species. We said you were too violent for civilized society. You were half right, Mike admitted. Humans are capable of great violence. But you missed the most important part. We choose when to use that violence. We fight to protect the innocent, not to conquer them. The chamber fell silent as the representatives absorbed this. Finally, Speaker Vorth spoke again. General Stone, what do you need from us? Complete integration of our fleets. Human ships and council vessels fighting as one force. Our tactical systems with your knowledge of local space. Most importantly, we need you to trust us. Trust you to do what? Trust us to lead the military effort. Your forces are brave, but they're not trained for this kind of war. Humans have been preparing for this fight for 30 years. Representative Keth looked skeptical. You want us to place our entire military under human command? Not under human command, Mike corrected. Under joint command. Captain Sarah Johnson will serve as tactical coordinator, but council officers will lead their own ships. Sarah stepped forward. We're not here to conquer you. We're here to save you. But we need you to let us work. The debate that followed lasted only minutes. The representatives could hear the reports coming in from the outer systems, collective forces destroying everything in their path. Time was running out. Speaker Vorth called for a vote. All in favor of joint military command with human leadership? The vote was unanimous. General Stone, Vorth said formally, the Council places its military forces under your coordination. What are your orders? Mike activated the tactical display, showing the positions of all human and Council ships. First, we evacuate all civilian populations from the projected battle zone. Second, we establish defensive positions around the Council's core systems. Third, we show the collective that this galaxy is under our protection. Over the next 6 hours, the largest military coordination in galactic history took place. Human and Council ships worked together to move millions of civilians to safety. Council captains learned human tactical doctrines, while human engineers helped upgrade alien vessels. Captain Tony Green, now commanding a joint human Council squadron, marveled at how quickly the two forces integrated. It's like we were meant to work together, he told his mixed crew. Lieutenant Dan Miller, serving as his tactical officer, nodded. Maybe we were. Maybe that's what the Council was really afraid of 30 years ago. What do you mean? They didn't just fear human violence, they feared what humans and Council species could accomplish together. We make them better, and they make us better. On the bridge of the flagship Terra, Admiral Brooks coordinated with Speaker Vorth as reports came in from across the battle zone. Admiral, our scouts report the main collective fleet has reached the Andaris system, Vorth reported. That's only 2 jumps from our capital. How many ships? Over 600 vessels, plus support craft. Brooks studied the display. Even with the combined human and Council fleet, they were outnumbered 2 to 1. But numbers weren't everything. Speaker, Vorth, I need to ask you something. Are you prepared to see your people fight like humans? Aggressively? Without hesitation? Accepting casualties to achieve victory? Vorth was quiet for a moment. Admiral, 30 years ago, we exiled your species because we thought aggressive warfare was primitive. Now I realize we were the primitive ones. We had forgotten that sometimes civilization must be defended with force. And you're ready for that? Admiral Brooks, we're ready to learn from the masters. The final preparations were completed as the collective fleet approached the Council's core systems. Human and Council ships took positions in a complex defensive formation designed by human strategists, but modified by Council experts who knew local space conditions. Captain Lisa Park, commanding the destroyer Starfire, reported from the forward. Position. All ships in position, Admiral. The collective fleet is entering sensor range. Remember, Mike Stone transmitted to all ships, we're not just fighting for territory or resources. We're fighting for the right of intelligent beings to exist. Every species, every culture, every individual life has value. Sir, Sarah Johnson added from her coordination center, intelligence reports suggest the collective has some kind of ultimate weapon. Something they've been saving for the final assault. Any idea what it is? Negative. But the energy readings are enormous. Whatever it is, it's designed to end the war in one strike. Brooks nodded grimly. Then we make sure they don't get the chance to use it. As the collective fleet came into view, the scope of the challenge became clear. The alien vessels were massive, dark shapes that seemed to absorb light. Their formation was perfect, disciplined, unstoppable. But they had never faced a combined force of human innovation and council determination. All ships, Brooks transmitted. This is Admiral Brooks. Today we fight not as separate species, but as one people. Today we show the universe that freedom and justice are worth any sacrifice. Today, added Speaker Vorth from his position on O, the Council flagship, we prove that the galaxy belongs to those who cherish life, not those who would destroy it. The two fleets met in the space between star systems, weapons blazing across the void. The battle for civilization itself had begun, and, for the first time in 30 years, humans and the Council fought side by side. Admiral Jake Harrison floated in the command center of the massive human flagship Terra, surrounded by holographic displays showing the greatest space battle in galactic history. Around him, human and Council officers worked side by side, their former differences forgotten in the face of extinction. Admiral, the collective is moving their flagship to the center of their formation, reported Captain Sarah Johnson from her tactical station. Energy readings are off the charts. Jake studied the enemy vessel, a massive construct shaped like a twisted spear, easily 5 times larger than anything in the Allied fleet. Whatever weapon it carried was designed to end civilizations. Time. Until they're in firing position? 12 minutes, sir. On the communication channel, Speaker Vorth's voice crackled with static. Admiral Harrison, our intelligence suggests their ultimate weapon can destroy entire star systems. If they fire it at our capital, they won't get the chance, Jake replied. Captain Miller, status on the boarding operation? Captain Dan Miller's voice came through from the assault ship Hammer. Sir, we're ready to execute. 20 ships, mixed human and Council crews. We can punch through their defenses and get to their flagship. Dan, you understand this is a one-way mission? Yes, sir. We all volunteered. Jake felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders. He was about to order 40,000 people to their deaths. But if they failed, billions would die instead. Execute the assault. The boarding force shot forward like arrows, their ships weaving through collective fire with desperate precision. Jake watched as several Allied vessels were destroyed, their crews sacrificing themselves to get the others through. Hammer to Terra! Dan's voice came through the static of battle. We're through their outer defenses, beginning boarding procedures. Colonel Grace Taylor here, came a new voice. Landing parties are away. We're inside their flagship. Jake switched to the internal tactical display, showing the progress of the boarding teams inside the collective vessel. Grace Taylor, the best Marine commander in the human fleet, was leading a mixed force of human and Council soldiers through the alien ship's corridors. Grace, what are you seeing? Sir, this place is like nothing we've encountered. The technology is completely organic. The walls are alive. Can you find their weapon control center? Working on it, sir. We've got Council technicians analyzing their systems. The Zelani engineer says he thinks he understands their technology. On the main battle display, Jake watched the larger fight continue. Human ships danced through space with impossible agility, while Council vessels provided steady firepower support. They were holding their own, but barely. "Admiral," Sarah reported, "long-range sensors are detecting more collective ships approaching. Looks like their entire reserve fleet." "How many?" "At least 300 vessels." Jake felt his heart sink. Even if the boarding mission succeeded, they couldn't fight off reinforcements that size. Then Captain Tony Green's voice came through from his reconnaissance ship. "Admiral, I'm detecting something else. Ships coming out of quantum space behind. The collective reinforcements. Ours?" "Negative, sir. Unknown configuration, but they're firing on the collective forces. The tactical display updated to show the new arrivals. Ships unlike anything in Council or collective technology. They moved with fluid grace, their weapons creating cascades of golden light that tore through collective hulls." "Admiral Harrison," came a new voice on the communication channel, speaking perfect English with a melodic accent. "This is Fleet Commander Lyran of the Kythera Nomads. We received word that humans were fighting to protect innocent life. We've come to help." Jake was stunned. "Commander Lyran, how did you know about humans?" "Word travels fast among the free. Peoples of the galaxy, Admiral. Your species' exile was known to many who live outside Council space. When we learned you had emerged to defend those who wronged you, we knew we had found kindred spirits." More ships appeared, different designs, clearly from multiple species. All of them had come to join the fight. "Admiral," Tony reported with awe in his voice, "I'm counting ships from at least 20 different species, all non-Council civilizations. They're all here to fight alongside us." Jake realized what was happening. Humanity's actions had inspired other species that felt marginalized by the Council's rigid hierarchy. Their willingness to forgive their enemies and fight for justice had shown the galaxy a new way forward. "Grace, what's your status?" he called to the boarding team. "Sir, we've found their weapon control center. It's incredible. This thing can collapse entire star systems by destabilizing their suns. Can you disable it?" "Better than that, sir. The Zalani engineer thinks we can turn it against their own fleet." "Do it." Minutes passed like hours as Grace's team worked to reprogram the collective superweapon. Around them, the greatest battle in galactic history raged on. Human, Council, and Allied ships fought desperately against overwhelming odds. "Sir," Grace reported, "weapon is reprogrammed. Ready to fire on your command." Jake looked at the tactical display one last time. The collective fleet filled space like a dark cloud, their ships preparing for a final assault that would break the Allied defenses. "Fire," he ordered. The collective flagship's superweapon discharged, but instead of targeting the Allied fleet, it turned on the collective's own forces. The beam tore through space, striking ship after ship in a cascade of destruction that lasted for nearly a minute. When the light faded, the collective fleet was gone. Hundreds of vessels reduced to floating debris in seconds. "All ships, this is Admiral Harrison," Jake transmitted. "The battle is over. We've won." The celebration that followed was heard across the galaxy. Human, Council, and Allied ships joined. Together in victory, their crews cheering in dozens of different languages. But Jake's attention was focused on the boarding teams. "Grace, get your people out of there. That ship won't last long." "Negative, sir. The ship is collapsing, and our transports were destroyed. We're not getting out." Jake felt his chest tighten. "Grace, we're sending rescue ships." "Sir, there isn't time. But we did what we came to do." On the display, Jake watched the collective flagship break apart, taking Grace Taylor and her brave volunteers with it. They had saved the galaxy, but the cost was heartbreaking. Admiral, Speaker Vorth's voice was soft with emotion. They died as heroes, all of them, human and council alike. Yes, Jake replied quietly. They did. The aftermath of the battle brought changes that reshaped the galaxy. The Council formally apologized to humanity and invited them to join as full partners. More importantly, they extended the same invitation to the dozens of species that had come to help in the final battle. Dr. Peter Wilson, humanity's chief diplomat, stood before the reformed Galactic Assembly 6 months later. The old council was based on hierarchy and exclusion, he said. The new alliance will be based on cooperation and inclusion. The barrier around Sol was dismantled in a ceremony attended by representatives from over 50 species. Earth's skies filled with ships from across the galaxy as humanity rejoined the cosmic community. But the real victory wasn't military or political. It was the proof that different species could work together when they shared common values. That strength came not from domination, but from diversity. Captain Tony Green, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the Kythera nomads, often reflected on the changes. 30 years ago, they exiled us because they were afraid of what humans might do, he told his mixed crew. Now they realize what we can accomplish together. The galaxy had learned that when you exile those who fight for justice, you don't eliminate the threat to tyranny, you just make justice stronger. And in the end, the Galactic Council had been right about one thing. Humanity was dangerous. Dangerous to anyone who would oppress the innocent, threaten the weak, or choose hatred over hope. The galaxy was a better place because they had chosen the wrong enemy.